Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go with them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to be going over part 8 of the extremely popular series that so many of you guys have been following, which is titled, Husband Tricks Wife into Writing Confession About Affair with Coworker, then Throws Her Out in Tears. And guys, for those of you who've been watching this long, crazy series, we're getting right back into it again with more drama with these fine folks. Now, as I said in the previous videos, it's gotten to the point that you guys that watch this know darn well what's going on, so I'm not going to waste your time with recaps because, this is so long. So I'm just going to jump right back into it, and if you're new, go back and watch parts 1 through 7, then you can join us all here for part 8 in the commentary. But I'll just say this. If you all remember Nico from the previous video, the previous story, well, he plays a big part in this update. It says, hello SSM. Thank you again for telling our story. Your comments and those of many of the viewers have been invaluable. There's no info, so I thought I would send an update. Well, if there's one thing we can count on when it comes to human beings, there's always going to be drama, and there's always going to be more drama. So of course there's updates, and we thank you. I'll start by reintroducing the people involved in the situation. I am divorcing my wife Linda. Jim is divorcing his wife Carol. Nico is no longer divorcing his wife Jessica. No need. And Angie is my attorney and friend. Let's not also add that Nico's ex-military and took his daughter in the middle of the night, and he's and now, well, you're all going to see what happens. Angie's my attorney and friend. Greg is Angie's husband, my business partner and friend. We left off with the last post with Angie receiving a letter from Nico and calling me to tell me that what Nico wrote. Nico's custody hearing for his daughter was sent the same Friday that Angie received a letter from Nico telling her that Nico and his daughter have decided to live abroad. He, of course, did not attend the custody hearing, and all hell broke loose. Oh, I'm sure it did. The judge found him in contempt. An Amber Alert was issued. The local cops came to talk to me at work this Friday afternoon. Then I heard from the FBI. So, this is when a lot of you guys in the comment section, I'll admit, I'm kind of thinking this too. Okay, there should be articles about this. Should there? Let me be absolutely clear about what I know of Nico's whereabouts. Nothing. Even if he did know about his whereabouts, he'd have to say nothing, but I believe he knows nothing. He could be out of the country, someplace in the U.S., or even living down the block. All I know is I was able to tell law enforcement is what I relayed in my last post. Nico told us that he received a lot of training in the Army, so he figured he could manage things when X, his wife's boyfriend, threatened him with a knife. He also made it clear that if there was any attempt to take his daughter away from him or to make him support his wife, Jessica, financially, he and his daughter would disappear. Well, clearly Nico saw the writing on the wall. That is all he was willing to tell us about his plans. Well, that was smart, and frankly, the less you know, the better. What I learned from Jessica's Instagram DMs and my wife Linda and Jim's wife Carol is that Nico had special ops training as a weapons specialist in the Army, and that private military contractors have been trying to recruit him based on his military school skills are so valuable. Jessica was frightened that a contractor would provide Nico and his daughter new identities and relocate them somewhere no one can find them, and she was afraid she'll never see her daughter again. Isn't this the same woman that really could care less about her daughter? I had no idea if any of this was true or even possible. All the comments about the last SSM video from people who actually are or were in the military or who know people in the military confirmed that this was indeed possible. Yeah, I was curious about this because I didn't know. So of course I asked, and the comment section of the previous video were just bombarded with comments from you guys, current military, ex-military, and you backed up that this is definitely possible. Demand from private contractors to hire former military guys with a special set of skills like Liam Neeson. It would not be a problem for someone with Nico's training to disappear with his daughter. But all I know is that Nico and his daughter vanished, and that Angie got a letter with an LA postmark saying he and his daughter have decided to live overseas, and I have no idea where they are. Well, I believe you. So the local cops came to see me at work looking for Nico's whereabouts. I asked them how they got my name. They told me they have all Jessica's contacts. They take a missing minor seriously, so they're going through everyone in her contacts. What do I know about Nico and the daughter? I told them what Nico told us and what I read about him and his wife's DMs, and I have no idea where he and his daughter are. Then the FBI called wanting to come in for an interview. I told them I have no idea where Nico is, but if they wanted to talk to me further, I wanted my attorney, Angie, present, and we set up a meeting in Angie's office for Monday morning. Yes, make sure you have your lawyer. Beth, Jim, and I, Beth, Jim, and I were supposed to have our support group on Saturday, the Friday after Nico skipped his custody hearing and Angie received a letter from him. But Jim canceled for Saturday, so we postponed until Sunday night. I arrived before Jim and met Beth. It was 2 kids. Great kids, very polite, but bubbling with excitement because Jim was bringing his boy. It'd be the first time the children were meeting. Beth said the children will have all eaten, so they go play while the adults eat dinner and talk. Jim arrived without his son. Beth looked for the boy and asked Jim where he was. Jim seemed very distracted, so Beth had to repeat her question. Beth asked why he didn't bring his kid as planned, and Jim just looked down and didn't answer. Well, I think we know what's going on here. Jim looked like he had lost his best friend. Beth told her disappointed kids to go upstairs and play in their rooms. Both Beth and I were alarmed and sat next to Jim on the couch. I asked Jim what was going on, and he said nothing, and then he decided he didn't want to talk about it. Dude, come on. You're walking in here moping and looking depressed, and your boy isn't here. We know something's going on here, so let's let it out. I asked him where his son was, and he said he didn't want to bring him, so he left him with the babysitter. Again, what is going on? Jim put his head in his hands and said he got the paternity test back. Oh, Jesus. He is not the boy's biological father. He doesn't know what to do. He can't be around the kid without thinking about Carol effing other men. He looks at the boy and only sees her betrayal. He knows Carol has been unfaithful. This poor bastard. He's seen the pictures and read her horrible DMs. But now it's real. Some other men actually fathered his boy. His son is no longer his son. How is that possible? He can't bear the idea even looking at his wife, and now when he looks at the boy, all he sees is his wife laughing at him. He repeated he doesn't know what to do. Well, I don't think there's any guy out there that wouldn't react this way and feel like he'd been punched in the stomach by Mike Tyson in his prime. Yeah. I said, let's back up a minute. Where is Jim in his divorce? Jim said Angie, his attorney and mine, served Carol, Jim's wife. In our state, she has 45 days to respond and begin negotiations. If Carol doesn't respond or there are no issues, Angie submits the paperwork as is to the court. As far as I know, Carol does not have an attorney. That makes everything more difficult. So Angie told Jim that even if Carol were to agree to everything Jim wants, a judge is not going to sign off on a settlement unless Carol has representation. Certainly not if there's a child involved. The judge will order Carol to get an attorney and will probably order Jim to pay her alimony. Imagine that. Carol is a stay-at-home mom and has no income, but right now they're waiting to see if Carol responds to being served. Does Angie know the son is not Jim's? Jim answered no. He got the results late on Friday and doesn't know if he should tell Angie. He's not sure he wants Carol to know that he's not the father, and he's worried that Angie may have to disclose that to Carol or the court. He doesn't know what he wants to do about the boy, but he doesn't want Carol to use that kid's paternity as leverage against Jim. I told him he has to tell Angie. She has his back, and she will know what to do. If nothing else, it's certainly more proof of Carol's infidelity. Jim should trust Angie with the information. Well, Angie has proven to be a damn good attorney and a good source of wisdom and advice, so listen to your fucking lawyer. Beth asked what Jim wants regarding the boy. Does he want to drop the boy off with Carol and wash his hands of the kid? Does he want to be the father of the boy? How much does he want to be in the boy's life? Jim says he loves the boy, but he can't imagine not having the kid with him. But right now, when Jim looks at him, he just sees another man's son and proof of his wife's treachery. Jim says he hates this. He can't bear to be without his son, but it's too painful to be around him. This poor bastard. I feel so bad for him and all the guys out there that find out this shit. So I suggested that Jim let things ride for now. He should leave now and get his kid, spend as much time he can with him, and show the boy how much he loves him. The boy needs a father now, not another absent parent. I told him the betrayal he feels when he looks at the boy will begin to fade. It's not the boy's fault his mother is a pig. It's not the boy's fault. But also, you can't blame the father for feeling this way. If he gives it time, he'll have his son back. Can he give it time? Jim replied that he doesn't want to give up his son. I'm right. It really doesn't have anything to do with the boy. He's completely innocent. He'll just have to work through the other stuff. He got up to go. He thanked us for helping clarify things, and I told him to make sure he tells Angie about the paternity test. He said he would, and we agreed to meet again the following Friday, again at Beth's house. Beth and Jim hugged, Jim left, and I stayed. We hadn't eaten, so Beth suggested we have dinner. It's great you have a support group, you know. So Beth and I talked about how horrible this is for Jim. We are both confident that Jim will be able to sort out his feelings for the boy. We moved on to Nico. Everybody's favorite side character, Nico. Beth asked if I had heard from Nico, and I have not heard from Nico. But I was interviewed by the local police and the FBI wants to talk to me. I'm meeting them Monday morning in Angie's office. They seem to be taking Nico and his daughter's disappearance very seriously. Well, obviously. Beth said if the cops contact her, she'll tell them she's rooting for Nico. He did what was best for him and his daughter. She hopes they never find him. I asked what's happening with her divorce. And Beth said they sent her husband Fred the divorce papers, but Fred is planning to charge Beth with infidelity. Oh, for God's sakes. Really? Fred? She laughed and asked if I remember her telling me that she texted Fred the kids are not his. I nodded. Fred's going to use that to show Beth is one who's been unfaithful. Fred does not want to give her alimony, and since he's claiming they're not his kids, no child support. Beth was obviously joking that they weren't his kids. Beth continued, they are Fred's kids and he knows it, but he's refusing to do a paternity test, saying there's no need since Beth admitted he's not the father. Fred won't give Beth and the kids any money now. Beth said her attorney says not to worry. They've asked for an expedited hearing to discuss money. If Fred continues to deny he's the father, he'll be forced to get paternity tests and support his kids. Well, she didn't help the situation by jokingly saying to him that you're not the father. Why complicate things already complicated? But Beth is a firecracker, so I can't say I'm that surprised. Fred's nonsense will actually speed things up. Beth will get the settlement her attorney submitted. Then Beth shook her head and said, you can imagine the scumbag doesn't want to support his kids. To keep up the facade that he's not the father, he won't see or talk to them. Try explaining it to an 8 and 6-year-old that their father is an asshole. Poor kids. Yeah, Fred is a fucking tool. And I love how Beth is whooping his ass in the first couple episodes. Beth asked me about my divorce, and I said I haven't seen or talked to Linda since I threw her out. She calls and texts me wanting to talk, and I ignore her. The 45 days since we served her were up a while ago. There was no response from Linda about the settlement, so Angie filed the paperwork with the court. We're waiting for our hearing. I told Beth I have the same problem as Jim. The judge is going to insist that Linda have a lawyer, probably at my expense. Oh, I'm sure it's going to be at your expense, amigo. My divorce will take a while because Linda's he wrote this word wrong, but Angie assures me I'll eventually get the settlement that we want. I wrote in the last post I sent to you right before the support meeting, so both Beth and Jim didn't know Angie and I discussed their budding romance. Jim was a wreck, so I decided to bring it up with Beth. I told Beth that she and Jim really have hit it off, but they're both still married and they both have to just come out of horrible relationships. Yeah, you could see there were sparks between the two of them. It was a bad fucking idea for them to get involved, but probably a way to distract themselves all the chaos in their lives. You know, people get together. And it's too soon. If they don't watch themselves, they can be countersued for infidelity. They both be giving up a lot. They should slow things down until they're divorced. It's also too soon to get involved with someone else. Right now they need to work on themselves and put their children first. No matter how difficult life is for Beth and Jim, it's got to be much worse for their kids. Things are confusing enough for them right now without adding a new lover to the mix. I told Beth all I'm saying is wait. Get past the divorces, make sure the kids are okay, and then she and Jim can get on with what they want to get on. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, you're speaking logic, and they're coming from a place of emotion and sexual drive. And what do you think is always going to fucking win? Beth stared at me, her face darkened. She was really angry. Uh-oh, she's going to clock you. I waited for Beth. After a bit, her face softened and she smiled. She said, I'm right. It's foolish to start a new relationship for all the reasons I said. Now, she's going to find a fucking loophole here. Well, we're not having a relationship. We're just fucking. But she likes Jim's attention, and Jim is very, very attentive. Attention and validation. Even though Beth is on the side of right here, she's still a gal, and attention and validation. After you're rejected, as as not good enough by your spouse, it's nice to feel wanted. And Jim makes her feel wanted, appreciated, and beautiful. She's attracted to him, and he feels the same way. But I shouldn't worry. They haven't slept together and won't. Well, maybe they didn't go all the way, but other things could have happened. They're always going to look for loopholes. If they're still interested after the divorces, they'll figure out things then. I told her I'm happy to hear that, and I'm not sure I believed her. I don't believe her. Sorry, Beth. Not buying it. She probably has this Cheshire Cat smile right now. Who, me? So on Monday morning, I was in Angie's office before the FBI arrived. Oh, joy. What a wonderful Monday. I'm sure you slept great the night before. I asked Angie why the FBI is involved. Angie said Nico's letter was postmarked Los Angeles, so it's an interstate search. Thanks, Nico. They're looking for Nico everywhere, but especially here in California, hence the FBI. If they locate Nico and the girl overseas, the State Department will take over. When the two agents sat down, Angie told me to be completely forthcoming, not hold anything back, and certainly not lie. I have nothing to hide since I don't know anything. I told the FBI the same thing I told the cops, the local cops. They asked if Nico mentioned any specific military contractors whom he was talking to or revealed the names of anyone who would help him leave. No, I don't know anything, so the interview didn't take very long. After the FBI left, Angie told me what she knew. She said the letter she received from Nico was off a printer. The only fingerprints on the letter were Angie's and from the woman in Angie's office who opens and sorts the mail. Lots of unidentified fingerprints on the envelope, but none of them Nico's. The zip code Nico's letter was mailed from includes LAX, so they looked for Nico's car at the airport. They didn't find it. No one found Nico's car. The plot thickens. There were no recent flights in the U.S., foreign or domestic, that listed Nico or his daughter as passengers. Come on, they obviously have different IDs at this point. The Amber Alert did not result in any reported sightings. No credit cards have been used, and no checks except the cashier's check Angie got. The FBI has no leads. Nico and his daughter are gone, and the cops and the FBI can't find them. It's like they evaporated. Good for Nico. Yeah, they're going to find this guy. I hadn't looked at the Wise Instagram DMs in more than a week, so I thought it was time to catch up. Oh, I'm sure that's a fun little read. I don't think the Wise believe I'm still looking at their messages. Again, they jump from one thing to another. Well, that's how women operate. Guys, you ever seen a bunch of girls, sit around and talk? They can have 10 different fucking conversations going on at the same time, and they all manage to remember exactly what they're all saying and all that. It's like a fucking hen house. Cluck, 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 cluck. It's like, how? Make us crazy. I don't think the Wise believe I'm still looking at their messages. Again, they jump from one thing to another and talking about half a dozen things at once, like I just goddamn said. So I did a lot of skimming. I'm going to try to summarize and organize what they wrote. First, there's no discussion of any current boyfriends by either Linda or Carol. Define boyfriends. But Carol isn't shy about talking about her past hookups. She's proud that all these men couldn't resist her. She wants to brag about these guys who she seduced and who all fell in love with her. Linda doesn't message about her past at all. Second, Jessica was no longer contributing to the DMs. Only Jim's wife Carol and my wife Linda are still exchanging DMs. Here's what they discussed that's of interest here. Alright, now we're getting to the juicy part. Number 1, where's Nico? Oh, that everyone wants to know. There's fucking Where's Waldo game, and now there's going to be a Where's Nico game for the 2020s. And you have to try to find Nico all over the world. Number 1, where is Nico? Carol keeps in touch with Jessica's parents. Her parents don't believe that Nico left the country. They believe he's in LA because that's where the letter to Angie was mailed from. Big fucking deal. He could have paid some freaking, college kid, $100 to go to deliver that letter on such and such date at this location. Come on. They don't think the FBI is doing enough to find their missing granddaughter, so they hired a PI. I had a laugh when I read that. If it was Nico who mailed the letter from LA, he's going to be gone from there. Again, I don't have any knowledge of their whereabouts, but I don't believe Nico was the one who mailed the letter. The PI so far has found nothing. Number 2 is Nico the father. Linda and Carol had an interesting discussion about whether Nico is his daughter's biological father. In the DMs, Linda told Carol she couldn't understand why Nico would take the daughter. Nico read Jessica's text that clearly states that Jessica's boyfriend since high school, is the father. And Jessica showed up at the school her senior year in college and announced she's pregnant with Nico's kid after being at home for weeks for semester break. Even a complete fool would realize the kid is not his. Carol repeated that Jessica was not pregnant when she arrived back at school. She just told Nico she was, and the daughter is Nico's. How does Carol know that? Jessica and Carol met as dorm mates and became close friends at college. Birds of a feather flock together. She and Jessica talked about everything. This was before Linda met Jessica, so she's probably never heard the real story. Jessica was not pregnant when she returned from semester break, and Jessica knew she was not pregnant. It was a total lie. Her period was just ending, and she was on birth control. But Jessica was graduating in a few months and didn't want to get a job or have to live with her parents at graduation. Jessica and her boyfriend, X, was not about to marry or support her. That left Nico. Yeah, X, the lowlife that tried to threaten Nico. That was real funny. But Nico, the tough guy and stand-up guy she knew was going to stick around. That's why they choose certain type of guys. Over semester break, Jessica started to talk to her parents about marrying Nico. Her parents were adamant that Nico wasn't good enough for their daughter. How about your daughter isn't good enough for Nico? Their daughter's a piece of trash. They threatened to cut her off if she married him, but Jessica knew they would have to accept Nico if she was having his baby. They would have no choice if they wanted to see their grandchild. Carol said that Jessica and Nico had talked about their marriage or just living together after she graduated, but Nico was vague about his intentions. He seemed to want to wait until they were older and more settled. Since Nico left the military, they were spending almost all their free time together. So Nico's older than Jessica, and Nico had been in the military, then went to school, I believe. But Nico didn't seem ready to commit to a more permanent relationship. Maybe his Jedi power sensed something wrong with Jessica. Nico wanted to wait, and Jessica didn't want to wait. What would happen if Nico thought Jessica was pregnant with his child? She made up the lie about being pregnant to find out what Nico would do. If Nico balked at marriage, since she wasn't really pregnant, she'd be stuck with the kid. But Nico agreed to marry, so Jessica got pregnant as quickly as she could. A discrepancy of a few weeks about when she got pregnant could easily be explained away. Be careful, gentlemen. Be careful, you dating a relationship guys, because you're hearing this shit right here. And the countless other stories between all three channels of shit that can happen when a gal decides she's ready to settle down, get married, not have to work. Remember. And Nico never noticed any discrepancy. Two problems solved. Her parents would have to accept Nico, and she'd be a stay-at-home mom, with Nico supporting her and the baby after graduation. They married during spring break. They moved back to our town and Jessica's hometown after graduation, so Jessica could be near her parents and near X, her boyfriend. Yeah, and you'll recall, through their marriage, she kept hooking up with X. Linda said that Jessica told her she banged lots of guys at college, not just her boyfriend X, when she was home. Carol can't be sure the kid is Nico's. Carol said she's sure. After she returned from semester break senior year, Jessica only had sex with Nico. Nico had left the military and was basically living in Jessica's dorm room. If Jessica was going to trap Nico with a baby, she didn't want him finding out about some other man and calling off the wedding. Well, obviously. If Nico bailed after she got pregnant, he would if he knew she was playing around, she would have to live with her parents. That would be a slow death. Plenty of time to sneak around after she walked down the aisle. Carol told Linda Jessica is positive the daughter is Nico's kid, so is Carol. Number 3. Jessica is in a bad way. Oh, poor Jessica. Jessica stopped contributing to the wise DMs right after the custody hearing. According to Carol, Jessica blames her parents for Nico and daughter's disappearance. She won't talk to them, and she barely talks to anyone. She doesn't get out of bed. When Linda and Carol visited her, Jessica barely mumbled a word to them. When the cops came to ask her about Nico, Jessica's mother insisted on being present when they spoke to Jessica. The mother told Carol that Jessica said she didn't know where Nico is. She told the cops that her parents ruined her life. No, you ruined your life. It's amazing all these assholes always blame everybody else for the problems in their lives that they brought on themselves. All she cared about was her husband and her daughter. Yeah, I can tell how much she cared about her husband Nico with all her cheating. What were they doing to find them? She started crying so badly the cops took her contacts from her phone and left. The following Tuesday morning, Jessica was still in bed, not eating, and barely responsive, so her parents took her to the hospital. She was admitted to the psychiatric floor, and she's still there. Well, keep her there. That's where she belongs. Number 4 is Jim the father. Carol told Linda that she's worried her husband Jim will get paternity tests for their son. He's threatened to do exactly that before he stormed out and left Carol at my house. Carol told Linda that Linda that when she and Jim decided to have a baby, she went off birth control and promised herself to only sleep with her husband. At least until she was sure she was pregnant with Jim's baby. She really did want the baby to be Jim's kid. Too messy if he found out otherwise. But Carol couldn't keep her vow. She met a guy at the grocery store that she liked. Since she was now doing that guy, she figured she might as well continue with another guy she's been seeing for a while. Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0. Carol told Linda Jim has a 1 in 3 chances of being the father. Probably less since she had more unprotected SCX with each of these guys than she did with Jim. Carol doesn't know who the father is, but she wouldn't bet on it being Jim. This poor bastard. So Carol went on that she doesn't know Jim went through with the paternity test. Jim will only talk to her about arrangements for her to see the son. Carol figures he probably didn't get the test. Jim thinks the son looks exactly like him. He really doesn't look much like Jim, but Carol has made the point of constantly telling Jim the boy is his exact replica. Carol also got Linda and Jessica to comment to Jim about how much the boy resembles him. So Jim believes that. If Jim continues to think the boy is his, Carol says she's confident that Jim and her will reconcile quickly. Well, talk about a couple little vipers. Okay, we gotta make sure he thinks that he's the father, so let's just keep telling him, oh, you guys look so much alike, blah, blah, blah. Jim loves her too much to not want her back. He's angry now, but eventually he'll convince himself the DMs and the pictures he saw were probably fake. Oh, that's what they think. Jim will start to blame me for wrecking their marriage by showing him this stuff in the first place. He'll eventually begin talking to Carol now, looking for reasons to reconcile. She'll provide him with all the reasons he needs. After Jim starts to cave, she'll be back home within a week. They'll just need to start talking. If Jim finds out the boy isn't his, it'll make things much harder for Carol. But when Jim discovers he's not the boy's father, Carol figures he'll call to yell at her. At least then they'll be talking. She'll convince Jim the paternity test is wrong since everybody agrees the boy looks exactly like him. Or she'll convince him it doesn't matter who the biological father is because Jim's the real father. It may take longer if Jim finds that the boy is not his. Again, these scheming vipers here. But either way, she'll be home and things will be continued as before. Yeah, we'll see. Despite Jim getting a lawyer and having her served, she knows he won't divorce her. Carol told Linda she just needs to get Jim to talk to her. If she can find out what Jim believes about the boy's paternity, she'll figure out the best way to play him. Jim has always been easy to play. In other words, she's saying he's stupid. That's all that was interesting in their DMs. After reading this, I thought Jim finding out his son wasn't his would make it harder for Carol. What the fuck? What about it making it harder for Jim? These women really don't care about anyone but themselves, not their husbands or their children, just themselves. Yep, pretty much a common theme in these stories here. So guys, that is the end of part 8. I'm wrapping this one up, and I'm going to continue part 9 in a few hours. Give you guys some time to do what you do, because I know a lot of you guys probably interrupt your work days to do this. So go back to fucking work. Gotta make your money, pay the bills, or if you're at the gym, okay, continue on with your hitting the weights. You can stop the cardio now and now start lifting. I don't want you bench pressing doing your max when you're listening to me. You're gonna freaking break something. And I'll be back in a few hours with part 9 of the never-ending story right here.